Welcome to Cosmic Compass, where we explore the deepest corners of the human heart through the lens of astrology. I'm your host, and Language of the Sky connects with language of your soul. Today, we're diving into one of the most intense and misunderstood emotional experiences of our time. Limerence. If you've ever found yourself completely consumed by thoughts of someone, checking your phone obsessively, analyzing every word they said, feeling like your entire emotional world revolves around their attention, then you've touched the edges of what psychologist Dorothy Tennov called limerence. It's not just a crush, it's not healthy love. It's something far more consuming, and for those caught in its grip, it can feel like emotional quicksand. We'll explore how your natal chart might predispose you to these intense experiences, what synastry reveals about limerent connections, and most importantly, how to break free and reclaim your emotional sovereignty. 1. Understanding limerence. Let's start with the psychology. Limerence isn't just intense attraction, it's an involuntary, intrusive state of romantic obsession. Picture this. You meet someone, and suddenly, your entire emotional landscape shifts. They become the sun around which your mental and emotional planets orbit. The signs are unmistakable. Intrusive thoughts that you can't control. They pop into your mind constantly. Emotional dependency. Your mood becomes a reflection of their perceived interest in you. Idealization. You see them as perfect, overlooking obvious flaws. Physical symptoms. Heart palpitations when you see them. Nausea when they don't respond to your text. But here's what makes limerence particularly painful. It thrives on uncertainty. The moment you feel secure in someone's affection, the limerent intensity often fades. It's the maybe they like me, maybe they don't, that keeps the obsessive wheel spinning. Now, from an astrological perspective, limerence isn't random. Your birth chart holds clues to why some people experience this more intensely than others. And understanding these patterns is the first step toward healing. 2. The astrological anatomy of limerence. When I look at the natal charts of people who struggle with limerent patterns, certain configurations appear again and again. Let me walk you through the astrological signatures that can predispose someone to these intense romantic obsessions. Venus-Neptune aspects, the fantasy makers. Venus-Neptune connections, especially hard aspects like squares, oppositions, and even conjunctions, are perhaps the strongest indicators of limerent tendencies. Venus governs how we love and what we're attracted to, while Neptune rules illusion, fantasy, and the dissolution of boundaries. When these planets clash, you get someone who falls in love with potential rather than reality, projects their romantic ideals onto unavailable or inappropriate partners, struggles to see red flags because they're blinded by what could be, experiences love as a form of spiritual transcendence, which sounds beautiful until you realize you're transcending into delusion. Venus-Pluto aspects, the obsessive attractors. Venus-Pluto hard aspects create a different but equally challenging dynamic. Pluto brings intensity, compulsion, and the need for complete emotional possession. These individuals experience attraction as a life-or-death emotional experience, are drawn to forbidden, unavailable, or dangerous partners, can't just be friends with someone they're attracted to, may unconsciously choose partners who mirror their own emotional wounds. The role of Neptune and Pluto dominance. Having Neptune prominent in your chart, whether through angular placement, multiple aspects, or ruling important houses, can make you susceptible to romantic escapism. You might find yourself constantly daydreaming about love, creating elaborate fantasies about potential partners, or feeling addicted to the high of new romantic possibility. Pluto dominance manifests differently, but is equally challenging. These individuals crave emotional intensity and transformation through relationships. They're not interested in casual dating. Everything feels like a soul contract, which can quickly spiral into obsessive attachment. Moon aspects, the emotional amplifiers. Don't overlook challenging moon aspects, especially from Neptune or Pluto. Your moon represents your emotional needs and unconscious patterns. When afflicted by these outer planets, you might have an unconscious need for drama and intensity in relationships. Feel emotionally starved unless someone is completely devoted to you. Experience mood swings based on your romantic relationships. Struggle with emotional boundaries. 3. Synastry, the limerent connection. Now, let's talk about astrology for couples. Synastry, how two charts interact to create the perfect storm for limerent obsession. Not every attraction leads to limerence, but certain synastry patterns can trigger these intense responses. This only applies when two people interacts in real life. The Neptune overlay, when someone's personal planets, especially their Sun, Moon, or Venus, fall in your 12th house or make strong aspects to your Neptune, they can feel like a dream made flesh. They seem to embody everything you've been unconsciously seeking, but this often says more about your projections than their actual personality. The person becomes a blank canvas for your romantic fantasies. You fill in the gaps of what you don't know about them with your idealized hopes, creating a relationship with someone who largely exists in your imagination. Pluto connections, the magnetic pull. Pluto synastry aspects, particularly when someone's Pluto contacts your Venus, Moon, or Ascendant, can create an almost magnetic compulsion. These connections feel fated, like you've found your other half, but they can quickly become possessive and obsessive. The danger lies in the intensity. Normal relationship development takes time, but Pluto connections can make you feel like you've known someone forever after just one conversation. This false intimacy can trigger limerent obsession, especially if you're already predisposed through your natal chart. Unequal investment and pay attention to reciprocity in synastry. If your Venus is heavily aspected to their chart, but their Venus makes few significant contacts to yours, you're likely to be more invested in the connection. This imbalance can fuel limerent dynamics. You're receiving just enough attention to keep you hooked, but not enough to feel secure. The role of outer planet transits. Sometimes limerence is triggered not just by synastry, but by transits happening during the time you meet someone. Neptune transits to your Venus or 7th house can make you more susceptible to romantic illusions. Pluto transits can intensify your need for transformative connections. Understanding these timing elements helps you recognize when you're in a particularly vulnerable state for developing limerent attachments. 4. The shadow side. Why we get hooked. Here's where we need to get honest about the deeper psychological patterns that fuel limerence. It's not really about the other person. It's about what they represent for our unhealed parts. The wounded inner child limerence often stems from childhood attachment wounds. If you experienced inconsistent caregiving, parents who were sometimes loving, sometimes distant, you might unconsciously recreate this pattern in romantic relationships. The uncertainty becomes familiar, even if it's painful. Astrologically, look at your 4th house and moon sign for clues about your early emotional environment. Challenging aspects here can predispose you to seek healing through romantic relationships, rather than developing internal emotional security. The savior complex. Many people prone to limerence have strong Pisces or 12th house placements, making them natural empaths. They're drawn to wounded or unavailable partners because they unconsciously believe love means fixing someone. The limerent obsession becomes a mission to save the other person through the power of their love. Avoiding genuine intimacy. Paradoxically, limerence can be a way of avoiding real intimacy. When you're obsessed with someone unavailable, you never have to risk true vulnerability. The fantasy, one-sided relationship feels safer than a real one, where you might be truly seen and potentially rejected for who you actually are. That's why when someone reciprocates your love, suddenly the infatuation disappears. The addiction cycle. Neurologically, limerence activates the same reward pathways as addiction. The uncertainty creates a dopamine roller coaster, high when you get attention, crashing when you don't. Over time, you need more and more intensity to feel the same high, which can lead to choosing increasingly unavailable or problematic partners. 5. Breaking free. The path to healing. The good news is that limerence isn't a life sentence. Understanding your astrological patterns is the first step, but healing requires conscious effort and often professional support. Let me share some practical strategies for breaking the limerent cycle. Grounding practices for each element. For fire sign dominance, ascendant, sun, or stellium in Aries, Leo Sagittarius. Channel that intense energy into physical activities. Your limerent obsession is often displaced passion. Redirect it toward creative projects, fitness goals, or adventure that doesn't involve another person. For Earth sign dominance, Ascendant, Sun, or Stellium in Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, focus on building stability in other areas of your life. Create routines that don't revolve around the limerent object. Set practical goals and celebrate small achievements to rebuild your sense of self-worth. For air sign dominance, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, intellectualize the experience. Journal about your patterns, research attachment theory, engage in therapy. Your mind is your superpower. Use it to understand and interrupt the obsessive thought cycles. For water sign dominance, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, honor your emotional intensity, but contain it. Practice emotional regulation techniques like breathwork or meditation. Find healthy ways to feel deeply connected through spiritual practices, art, or meaningful friendships. Working with challenging aspects. For Venus-Neptune aspects, practice discernment by making lists of what you actually know about someone versus what you're imagining. Set boundaries around how much time you spend fantasizing. Ground yourself in reality through practical interactions. For Venus-Pluto aspects, learn to sit with intensity without acting on it. Practice feeling attraction without needing to possess or transform the other person. Develop a relationship with your own power rather than seeking it through another. For prominent natal Neptune, establish clear boundaries between fantasy and reality. Limit activities that feed into romantic illusions like constantly checking their social media or creating elaborate scenarios about your future together. For prominent natal Pluto, channel your need for transformation into personal growth rather than seeking it through relationships. Therapy, shadow work, and creative expression can provide the intensity you crave in healthier ways. The Saturn solution, regardless of your natal patterns, Saturn energy is crucial for healing limerence. Saturn represents boundaries, learning to contain your emotional energy. Patience, understanding that real love develops slowly. Self-discipline, choosing not to act on every impulse. Responsibility, taking ownership of your emotional patterns. Practice Saturn-ruled activities. Commit to a routine. Take up a discipline like martial arts or music. Set and achieve realistic goals that have nothing to do with relationships. Rebuilding your relationship with Venus. Remember, Venus isn't just about romantic love. It's about all forms of beauty, pleasure, and connection. Diversify your Venus experiences. Cultivate friendships that bring you joy. Engage with art, music, or nature. For pure aesthetic pleasure, practice self-care that makes you feel beautiful. Find ways to give and receive love that don't involve romantic intensity. The healing timeline. Healing from limerent patterns isn't linear. You might notice. First month, increased awareness of your patterns. 3 to 6 months, developing new coping strategies. 6 to 12 months, experiencing attractions without immediate obsession. 1-2 years, building secure, reciprocal relationships. Be patient with yourself. These are deep patterns, often rooted in childhood, and they take time to rewire. 6. Practical strategies and techniques. Let's get practical. Here are specific techniques you can implement starting today to break the limerent cycle. The reality check exercise. When you notice obsessive thoughts starting, ask yourself, what do I actually know about this person versus what I'm imagining? How are they actually treating me versus how I hope they might? Am I trying to fix or save them? What am I avoiding in my own life by focusing on them? Write down your answers. The act of putting thoughts to paper engages your logical mind and can interrupt the emotional spiral. The energy audit track, where your energy goes for 1 week. How much time do you spend thinking about the limerent object? How often do you check their social media? How much of your social conversation revolves around them? What activities or relationships are you neglecting? This awareness alone can be shocking and motivating for change. The no contact, limited contact protocol. If possible, implement no contact for at least 30 days. This means no texting, calling, or social media interaction. No checking their online presence. No asking mutual friends about them. No driving by places they might be. If no contact isn't possible, you work together, share children. Implement limited contact. Only communicate about necessary matters. Keep interactions brief and factual. Don't engage in personal conversation. Have a trusted friend monitor your communications. The redirection technique. Every time you catch yourself thinking about the limerent object, you should 1. Acknowledge the thought without judgment. 2. Redirect your attention to something concrete in your environment. 3. Engage in a predetermined activity. Call a friend. Go for a walk. Work on a hobby. The key is having the redirection activity planned in advance so you don't have to make decisions while in an emotional state. Building your support network. Limerence thrives in isolation. Combat it by telling trusted friends about your pattern. Shame keeps you stuck. Joining support groups or online communities. Working with a therapist who understands attachment patterns. Engaging in group activities that create natural social connection. 7. Long-term healing and prevention. True healing from limerence goes beyond just getting over one person. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship patterns. Here's how to build lasting emotional resilience. Developing secure attachment. Secure attachment is the antidote to limerence. It's characterized by comfort with both intimacy and independence, ability to communicate needs directly, trust that relationships can handle conflict, self-worth that doesn't depend on another person's validation. If you have challenging Moon or Venus aspects, you'll need to consciously develop these qualities through practice and often therapy. The self-partnership concept. Before you can have a healthy relationship with another person, you need to develop a solid relationship with yourself. This means knowing your values and making decisions based on them. Meeting your own emotional needs instead of expecting a partner to fill all voids. Developing interests and goals that have nothing to do with relationships. Learning to self-soothe when experiencing difficult emotions. Understanding your triggers. Pay attention to what types of people and situations trigger your limerent responses. Do you fall for unavailable people? Are you attracted to drama and intensity? Do you idealize people who are mysterious or withholding? Do you confuse chemistry with compatibility? Once you know your triggers, you can make conscious choices to avoid or approach them differently. Creating healthy relationship standards. Develop non-negotiable standards for how you expect to be treated. Consistent communication. Not hot and cold behavior. Emotional availability. They're genuinely interested in knowing you. Reciprocal effort. They invest as much as you do. Respect for boundaries. They don't push when you say no. Write these down and refer to them when you're tempted to make excuses for someone's behavior. The gradual exposure method. As you heal, practice having casual, non-intense connections with people. This might mean going on dates with people you're not immediately obsessed with developing friendships with the opposite sex. If that's your attraction, practicing being vulnerable in small ways without expecting reciprocation. Learning to enjoy someone's company without needing to possess them. Integration and hope. As we wrap up today's journey through the landscape of limerence and astrology, I want to leave you with this. Your sensitivity, your capacity for deep feeling, your ability to love intensely, these aren't flaws to be fixed. They're gifts that, when properly channeled, can create profound beauty in your life. The transformed Venus. When you heal your limerent patterns, you don't lose your ability to love deeply. Instead, you learn to love wisely. Your Venus energy becomes magnetic rather than desperate, generous rather than possessive, discerning rather than indiscriminate, sustainable rather than consuming. The evolved Neptune, your Neptune sensitivity, once a source of romantic delusion, becomes compassion for human imperfection, artistic inspiration and creativity, spiritual connection to something greater than yourself, intuitive wisdom about people and situations. The integrated Pluto. Your Pluto intensity transforms from obsession into personal empowerment and authenticity. Deep, transformative relationships built on mutual respect, ability to help others heal their own patterns, magnetic presence that draws healthy connections. Final reflection. Remember, the same astrological patterns that predispose you to limerence also give you tremendous capacity for healing, transformation, and eventually, authentic love. Your journey through the dark night of romantic obsession can become the foundation for a much more fulfilling emotional life. If you're currently struggling with limerent feelings, be gentle with yourself. Healing takes time, and setbacks are normal. Seek professional support when needed, lean on your support network, and trust that this intense feeling state is temporary. Your heart's desire for deep connection is valid. The path to fulfilling that desire lies not in finding the perfect person to obsess over, but in becoming someone capable of giving and receiving love freely without attachment to outcomes. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the limerent heart. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit. Remember, you're not alone in this experience, and healing is absolutely possible. Until next time, keep looking up. The sky have more to teach you about the infinite capacity of the human heart.
We hope you found this video insightful and inspiring. Remember, understanding your rising sign is a powerful tool in navigating life's challenges and embracing your true self. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more astrological insights. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars.